and bred in Nashville, but she walks the beaches down in Florida sand. A mother and wife, a daughter, a sister, trying hard to do the best she can. She found her voice with a heavy heart, looking for purpose with trembling hands. And giving this all a new start, moving ahead, speaking for ones who came. And she says, I am who I am, I'll stand my ground. Even when the nights get long and rough, you'll hear my sound. She'll be speaking for the ones unheard, 'cause she's got a caring heart that won't be turned. Her mama fought cancer while she was searching, stories that needed a gentle voice. We saw summer's name and felt the heart of we can try to bring light where there was no choice. And when she heard of Sebastian, her sadness rose. She prays for truth through the noise. She'll follow wherever the story goes, seeking their dignity, a child's joy.
Her smile shines as bright as the stars at night. Her heart is as kind as can be. She has the patience of a saint, but if you push her, oh Lordy, a straight talker is Smiley. She's the salt of the earth. Make no mistake, she matters. Catch Smiley's story on a live stream. Oh boy, that girl can matter. Go Smiley. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear. Missing posters and stories of heartache and fear. She tells us all of the heartbreaking tears. She can sniff out the guilty from a mile away. If Smiley's on the case, then she's here to stay. She cares about these missing children. She cares deeply about them all. She speaks the truth with integrity for the truth. She will seek it all. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's smiling, alright. She's smiling. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear. Smiley's questions are like a heat-seeking missile. She's going straight for the bullseye. Don't ever believe you can't fool her. She's too wise, man. she won't comply. She values freedom like the 4th of July. She values respect even more. If you want to earn a place at Smiley's table, watch the clock, it takes time for sure. She's Smiley, alright, she's Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's Smiley, alright, she's Smiley. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear. If you break her trust, you're done for. Trust don't grow back like grass, so don't give Smiley a reason to doubt you, or that friendship will shatter like glass. She's a damn good woman, that much we know. She puts in the hours to bring them kids home. If your child is missing, you want Smiley on the case. She is always willing and she gives so much grace. She's a Smiley, alright, she's a Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's Smiley, alright, she's Smiley. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear. If you're guilty, you better feel fear.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. BJ, hello. Hello, Lady for Justice. Good to see you. Raymond, hello. Good morning. Hippie Grandma, hello. Excuse me. I have got a cold this morning or something. I don't know what is going on, honey. I hope you all are fine and well and staying warm. Goodness gracious, it is cold. It is cold. How's everybody doing on this December 3rd, 2025? Because I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're enjoying yourselves this morning, whatever you're doing. I hope you have your warm coffee, your warm cocoa. I hope you have all the things that you love to have a bright day. Hope everybody's doing good. Raymond, you got any snow up there? Got any snow? Because it's cold here. I know that. It's cold. What do we got? About 22 more days to Christmas? How many people's ready for Christmas? Anybody? Anybody? Not me. I'm going out today. In fact, I better stop. 8 inches? Oh my God. I better stop and do a little shopping today. That's what I better do. I better do that. 8 inches of snow. My goodness. Well, I hope you're staying in. I hope you're staying in and relaxing since you're off work. That's what I hope. R2 Country Girl, good morning. You got a heat wave of 35. Shut the front door. That don't sound like no heat wave. But it is cold. Oh, that's cold. Chilly, chilly, chilly. Good morning, honey. I am so glad to see you. So glad to see you. All of you. I hope everybody's doing good. I was going to come on last night feeling a little under the weather. So we're going to come on and talk about part 2 of Krista Pike today. I don't know why. Y'all have to excuse me because I don't know why I want to say Christina. And I'll probably say it 100 times in here. Even though I'm looking directly at it, it doesn't matter. You know, when you get something in your head, you just get it there, I guess. I know a lot of you's probably heard about this story. If you didn't, I did a part 1 on it, kind of laying it out. But Krista Gail Pike, her execution date has been set. It has been set for September 30th, 2026 in the state of Tennessee. She's at Deborah K. Johnson right now. She will be sent when it comes closer time over to River Bend. And if it goes through, she'll be the first woman in over 200 years, right, to be executed there. She was the youngest girl to go on death row. She's evil, in my opinion. There's so much on her, so much she's done, so much she did after she got in prison. It's a lot of things. I'm going to start out this morning with a little news clip. I'm doing better than this Pike. You ain't kidding about that, honey. Can't say woman or lady. That's correct. I don't know what she is. She is the devil spun's child, for sure. She has that angel face. She had that angel face as a young girl going in. But evidently, she's all into the cult, the satanic stuff, and she has no remorse, that's for sure. I think we're all doing a little bit better than her on this day and the days previous, and going to be doing better than her, hopefully, God willing, and the creek don't rise in the days going forward. She'll be executed in just enough time that somebody would have been able to have a baby. What, about 9 months? We got about 9 months to go. And she gone like Donkey Kong. She's pretty much ran out of everything. So I don't know. Anything could happen though, but we'll see. I want to play a little news clip this morning. Hold on.
On death row in Tennessee. State leaders paused executions for months. That move was tied to problems with the method of using 3 drugs for the process. Now, next year, the state is set to take the lives of the people on your screen. Gary Sutton, Tony Carruthers, Anthony Hines, and Krista Gale Pike. Pike is the only woman on death row in Tennessee, behind bars now for almost 3 decades.
10 News anchor Shay Smith joining us now. And Shay, her execution would mark the first time Tennessee has put a woman to death in more than 200 years.
That's right, John and Robin. Krista Pike is scheduled to be put to death by the state next September. Pike was sentenced to death in 1996 for the 1995 killing of Colleen Slemmer. Pike and her boyfriend, Tadaryl Shipp, were both convicted of Slemmer's murder after Slemmer was tortured, mutilated, and killed. But it has taken almost 30 years for a death date to be set for Pike. I spoke to Slemmer's mother, who says she is patiently waiting for September 30th, 2026.
I would like Tennessee to hear my plea and finally end this after 30 years. I really would.
It's been 3 decades, but a painful chapter for Colleen Slemmer's family is on the verge of coming to an end.
Once it's completely done and everything is over with, it will be a close.
In 1995, 19-year-old Colleen Slemmer was brutally tortured, mutilated, and killed by Krista Gale Pike. A year after the killing, Pike was convicted of murdering Slemmer and was sentenced to death. Slemmer and Pike were taking part in a job training program here in Knoxville. Investigators say Pike, her boyfriend, Tadaryl Shipp, and friend, Shadala Peterson, lured Slemmer into Tyson Park on the night of January 12th. Once there, the couple then taunted and attacked Slemmer with a box cutter and small cleaver. Pike and Shipp carved pentagrams into Slemmer's chest and on her forehead. Pike then repeatedly hit Slemmer in the head with a chunk of asphalt until she was dead. She then took a piece of Slemmer's skull with her when they left the scene. Later, investigators say Pike bragged about the killing and celebrated it. She even showed another classmate the piece of Slemmer's bone. Very soon after, though, the three of them were arrested for her murder. In 1996, a jury quickly found Pike guilty and sentenced her to death. Shipp was convicted the following year of murder and was sentenced to life in prison. Peterson denied any involvement in the murder, but made a plea deal and admitted to being an accessory after the murder. But it has taken 30 years for an execution date to be set for Pike, something Slemmer's mother says has taken far too long.
For Krista to keep on having appeals and keep going back and forth to court and everything, it's hard. It really is.
While in jail, Pike was also convicted of attempted murder for trying to kill another inmate. She was also investigated for trying to convince a man to help her escape prison. Slemmer's mother says if the execution goes through next year, this painful chapter will finally end. She can move forward, and Colleen will finally rest in peace. Now I am joined now by 10 News executive investigative producer John North. And John, you first worked this case back in the mid-90s, and it's been 30 years since this killing. What has taken so long for this execution date to be set?
Well, if you are facing death in the United States, you get lots of chances to test your case, to appeal, and that's what's been going on for many, many years.
And the execution is set for almost exactly 1 year, but that's a lot of time between now and then. Is there anything that could happen that could potentially impact that date?
Honestly, Shay, there's no telling what could happen. There could be some kind of a decision, there could be some kind of interference, there could be some problem that evolves. You just never know. So it's a date that's been set. That's our guidance at this point, really.
And John, she's the only woman on death row, but there's no execution chamber in the jail that she is being held at, the prison, Where will her execution take place?
She will be executed at Riverbend. That's where all the male inmates are held, but because that's where the state's death chamber is, she will be taken there, and that's where she will be executed.
All right. Thanks, John. And as we said, her execution date is set for September 30th of next year. And John North, you and Robin also have a Behind the Headlines podcast that you all are working on this case.
That will be coming in the next few weeks. We will be hearing from the journalists, including John, who covered this story, this extensive story for us and for other outlets. So you can find that on WBIR Plus in the coming weeks. Shay, John, thank you very much.
So she needs to be getting down on her knees in the next 9 months, begging for forgiveness. But I don't see it, in my opinion. I can't say what somebody else will do or what they won't do. However, I was just thinking, boy, when she gets over there because she's something else, when she gets over there to Riverbend with them men, she'd probably be glad they'd be whistling at her and everything else going. She'll probably walk proudly down to them chambers and in her cell and whatever else all in between time. This girl is not right, but I feel like she's evil. I feel like she's evil. They tried to say she has brain damage and this, that, and the other, but when you hear her interviews and stuff, she looks pretty normal. Good morning, Janice. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, she better start praying. That's a fact. She better start praying real hard. I don't know. This was an evil, evil crime. But today we're going to go over who she was, who she is. I don't like saying was. She ain't dead yet, right? But who she is. Krista Gale Pike, she was not a misunderstood girl, in my opinion. She was not a girl who had a bad break. This person on my screen, she might look like she has an angel face, and she might have been young, but she was very dangerous. She still is very dangerous and violent. She's a violent offender whose choices were very cruel and they were very deliberate. We're about to talk about who she is, who she was. She was born March 10th, 1976 in West Virginia. You wouldn't have thought somebody from little old West Virginia would be this evil, but she is. But she was raised in instability, a severely dysfunctional family home is where she came from. Still, let me be crystal clear on my feelings. There is zero excuse for her actions. I don't care what she went through. There's people out here in the world who's went through that and worse, and they didn't do these acts, and they're still not in prison and still trying to do these acts, right? But we're getting to the bottom of who she was. We're going to go through this entire story, everything. Good morning, Cecilia. Hello. Good morning. They say she was exposed to drugs. She was neglected. Obviously, she was neglected. She didn't have we'll get into that. We'll get into that. I'm going to try to be calm on this. She had multiple caretakers. She lived with her grandmother. Finally, she lived with her grandmother. She was in and out of her grandmother's. Let's be clear about that. But then she was abused by her grandmother's boyfriend. Still, there was no excuse for her. She had choices, in my opinion. There was no excuse for her choices or her actions that she took. What she did to Colleen was unheard of. They say she had early behavior problems that was also reported by the teachers, when she went to school. So her teachers talked about that. But I say still, zero excuse. When we talk about her today, now that I'm thinking about it, I should have named this live Zero Excuses, because there is zero excuses. So let's be clear about that. Later, she had evaluations, and listen, the people who evaluated her suggested brain injury and trauma, but none of that excused her brutality. Absolutely none. And I know it's HIPAA, but I would love to see those reports. I would love to speak to those doctors. Krista's childhood circle is almost invisible and non-existent. That's very telling. She had no real stable friendships. People who knew her described her as very chaotic. She was unsupervised. She was emotionally unstable. Well, I'd say anybody that was into the satanic bullshit and thought about things that she thought about is unstable. But that don't mean they don't have choices or are very smart. And this is just my opinion of her. But they say she was very attention-seeking. Her neighbors, her classmates, they recalled her as withdrawn sometimes. She got explosive and very dramatic with others. And she was someone who scared other kids. She didn't bond with them. She scared them. She liked that. So at a young age, she scared other kids and people, neighbors, people around her. And she didn't have any stable friends because of that. She was a bully. Okay? I feel, in my opinion, she was born to kill. I think she was always cruel and dangerous. And obviously, yes, I personally think people can be born to kill and do these things. Hey, Leslie. Hello, hello. Keeping it real this morning. I hope you're doing well this morning. Thank you, Janice. Yep, definitely. Thank you. One of her former classmates described her as the girl, listen to this, the girl who hung on to whoever tolerated her. Wow. Wow. Just to be tolerated. She was not the kind of child others, they didn't confide in. They didn't want to stay close to her. They always tried to get the heck away from her. She was a dangerous and scary person. The only friends that she formed, a lot like I see, a lot like I see, is the troubled ones, the troubled friends. Her boyfriends, they were delinquents. They were in delinquent circles. And she attracted people who fueled, just like some we see, who fueled her need for chaos and attention. Some people just need that. Well, she was one of them. You know, she fed off of that. She fed off of those type of people, and those type of people fed off of her, and she was just tolerated with all of her chaos, right? And she did end up at Job Corps, and people said at Job Corps, she stuck to others. She wanted to be clingy. She was just a person who was just lost, but she was dangerous. And I think she wanted to be. There's no doubt in my mind. Most people always distance themselves entirely, especially after the murder, after what she did to Colleen. Listen here. And while she's in prison, let me say this, it's even the murderers in prison don't want to be near her. They have an intolerance for her. They don't even want to tolerate her. And we'll get to that. And that should tell you everything you need to know about this girl. It's not Smiley being mean. This girl is evil. Several have refused interviews. They don't want to be a part of it. Some spoke, but they was anonymous. And, you know, some spoke to like Tennessee newspapers and Virginia newspapers. And I'm talking about others that did not have to go in court and literally either be subpoenaed or have to and show their face. These people wanted to distance themselves. They didn't want anybody to know they knew this girl. They didn't want any part of her at all. They didn't want no part of her world. You know, most of her classmates have grown up. They formed their own families. They protect their families. They don't want anything like this in their lives. And they live quiet lives and with no public connection to her at all. And I don't blame them. And also, I want to state on here, we are not to harass people or to go real life on people and their families. Nobody did anything except this girl right here on my screen. And she's going to get hers, in my opinion. They've kept her pretty much in lockup. She's tried to escape. So she's segregated, and they've kept her pretty much in lockup for decades, 23 hours a day, like a caged animal. but that's what she is. But these people that ever come across her path or knew her, they don't want to be tied to her. They don't want to be tied to her reputation, and I don't blame them. A lot of them won't speak on it. Like Nana come in here the other night, and Nana said, I thought people had forgot this case. A lot of people, I tell you, want to forget this case. But the reason this case is being brought back out is because of the non-infamous who she is, what she did, and because she's going to be the only person put to death in over 200 years. But this story needs to be told. People need to be reminded. I'm just the one to do that. I'm just the one to bring it back out. All of it. All of it. But few spoke to the journalists and newspapers. But when they did, they said she always seemed like something was wrong. They said she had this blank side to her, this blank stare. You know, they said we didn't understand. That's what they said. She hung around whoever didn't reject her. It didn't matter who they were. If they didn't reject her and they was a reject pretty much like her, that's who she hung around with. She didn't form any childhood friends or friendships that stuck. She had acquaintances, but she didn't have any loyal friends. Let's talk about her mother for a minute. Her mother, Chrissa Elaine Pike, she was very young when she had Krista. Her mother struggled with drugs, instability, and men coming in and out. She left Krista with others a lot of times. So there's no telling how much that she was abused by her mother's men friends. And a lot of that was related to the drugs and all that. But her mother, you know, on the stand said herself, she said, I was not a good mother, and this should be me. You know, well, I don't know if it should be her or not, but it shouldn't be anybody because this should have never happened. I don't think a lot of times, and I've said it many times in different lives on different cases and different things in life in general, no matter what, parents can't always be held responsible for their children or their children's actions. I know the law sometimes wants to uphold them. I know parents have guilty consciences, but still, Krista had her choices. Could her mother have done better? Oh, hell yes. Yes. But I wonder when she said that on the stand, it should have been her, not her daughter. I don't know. I don't know if she meant it from her soul, her heart as a mother, or if she was just trying to look good for her daughter and the public and the courts. Because I don't think she would have laid down her life for Chris. I just don't. That's just me. And some parents won't. And that's sad. That's the only sadness. But it's more for the parent, not this girl right here. Just saying. Good morning. I'm so happy that you're here, Gypsy. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. In my opinion, she never would attempt to give anything for her daughter. That's just me. But again, I'll say it. You know, don't be real quick to blame the parents, any parents, not even this mother, for all the evil crimes, especially the crimes that Krista committed. Okay? And you got to think about it. She's been institutionalized for decades. She's grew up in a cage in prison, segregated. She had all the time in the world to still make her own choices. Yet in prison, she tried to unalive somebody else. She tried to escape. She's done all the things that she could have had not done. She did all that. So I don't think her mother contributed to any of her evil crimes. I just don't. Krista Pike, she could have broke those chains. She could have broke those cycles. I mean, Krista had her own thoughts. We all do. She had her own choices. She made those choices herself, not anybody else. It was not anybody else's thoughts. It was not anybody else's choices, especially when she got into Job Corps and she did what she did to Colleen, her victim. Although her and her mother's relationship was strained and inconsistent and emotionally damaging, their interactions gave psychologists some insight to Krista's, attachment and deficits and all those things. Oh, Raymond, thank you for some coffee. Whoop, whoop. Thank you, Raymond. Coffee time. Whoop, whoop. Where in the heck is my bell? Ring my bell. Oh, Lord, just forget it. I just give y'all a little laughter this morning. I don't know where my bell is. My grandkids has probably been in here. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Or it's probably fell on. I don't know where it's at. Oh, let me see. Let me give you this. I just want to give you this, Raymond. I just love you. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, hold the front door. Oh, yeah, thank you. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Thank you for helping me meet my goal. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. Look at y'all this morning. Look at y'all this morning. Thank you for helping me meet my goals, Cecilia. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love you all. Love you, love you. Thanks, everybody, for your support. Y'all are so great. I love you. But all the excuses in the world, I don't think excuses her. I really don't. There's still no excuse. Now, we're going to hear some things today, but her father is, well, they know who his father is. She knows who her father is. The courts know, and it's in the records. But he's not really known because he's not involved with her. He was not really involved with her. She had no consistent father figure in her upbringing. Some of the records indicate multiple men were in her mother's life, but not her father. Still, if y'all was ever upbrought like that, still no excuse. Are y'all out doing these things? No, you're not. Is it horrible what happened to her? Sure it is. Those things shouldn't have happened to no little girl. So yeah, sure it is. But we'll get to how she was failed later. But that didn't give her, in my opinion, and I want to be super crystal clear, to take on her actions and go out and do what she did. She could have broke those chains. There is no excuse. Her grandmother took care of her. She took her in her home many times. And I guess she tried. I mean, I guess she tried. Listen, my mother had me so very young. And my mother lived there too with my grandmother. My grandmother raised me and my brother. Hell, she was still raising my mama. My mama was young. My mama was 13 when she had me, okay? And my grandmother had already raised 10 kids. She went through 4 other grandkids she raised. And then here she is, because my grandfather died before I was born. My mom was pregnant with me. And my grandmother did the best she can. So I'm not going to blame it on this grandmother. But you're going to see this grandmother swept things under the rug, tried to keep her daughter from going to jail, or when things got tough, when CPS stepped in and stuff like that. But listen, I'm no killer. My brother's no killer. There's no excuse for. So you're not going to sit here and tell me there's an excuse for it, how she was treated, how she was done. So is it sad? Yes. No little girl should ever have to go through that. But then there's that but. But she had her choices. You can break those chains. There's no excuse. Absolutely none. So anyway, I guess the grandmother, she took custody of her several times, multiple times, in fact. And I guess she tried. But it, in a way, if you think about it, it wasn't her job to try. Was it her job to try to do the right thing? Yeah, and that's what she stepped up and tried to do. But back then, we're talking decades ago, a lot of people didn't know what they know now. But her grandmother wasn't much better. No, her grandmother was better. I'm saying Krista wasn't much better off at her grandmother's because it was a bit more stable, but there was limited supervision. Her grandmother loved her, and she tried. There's no doubt in my mind. But she could not manage this girl right here or her behavior. And to me, that was not her fault. It was a problem that just come up on her. But what do you do when it's your grandkids? You do the best you can, right? And I know I raised one of mine for 4.5 years. I had legal custody of her. You do the best you can. To me, that was not her fault, but things happened to her at her grandmother's as well. One of her grandmother's boyfriends abused Krista. Okay? So, again, but that was not her fault. Was, what are you supposed to do? Keep everybody at arm's length? I mean, you don't know. Sometimes you got monsters even living with you. I mean, what do you do? There were relatives on her mother's side that occasionally would take her in or let her spend the night or, a couple weeks or whatever. But one aunt was noted in the psychological documentation part that she took her in sometimes, but there was no stable, real family members, no stable father figures, no father, no uncle influence or anything like that that stuck. Now, she had, through my research, one half sibling, and they refer as a younger half sibling from her mother, but they were not close. There was sporadic contact, and he's not, I understand it's a male. It's not in her life, wasn't never in her life meaningfully, nothing like that. Let me see what you're saying. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here, and we appreciate. Let them. Absolutely let them. Thank you. From my understanding, the sibling has not spoken to anybody publicly about this matter, about what happened. And I don't personally know of. Now that could change. Somebody could find it, send it to me. There is a lot to this case that I have been researching, a lot. But maybe later that could change. I don't know. But because of privacy laws and fear, of retaliation because of her actions, fear of association and the danger, the siblings' identity remains private as far as I'm understanding. Listen, her family was fractured. They were very unstable. It was chaotic in that family. And they were all emotionally disconnected. But still, there's no excuses to what she done and continued to do after her arrest. After being locked up, she still then didn't try to do better. You would think somebody, if they were locked up, said they were going on death row, saying your life might end. Even if you wasn't mature at that time, you mature into yourself or whatever, and you have a lot of time to yourself to think to yourself. She did. But she never used it for the better. And she never had any remorse. And she kept doing things. There's no excuses. She had sex with guards. Now, a lot of that's their fault too, or just as much their fault, that part. She tried to escape, and she tried to kill another inmate. So she tried to kill again. She loved this stuff. She was with a neglectful mother, and it was a disgusting, non-existent, deranged father, in my opinion, that she did not have, but okay. And her grandmother she was doing the best she could, but she had no secure attachments to anyone or anywhere. No structure, no support, no supervision or emotional safety. But again, no excuse. Socially, she always pretty much had been on her own and alone and took care of herself. So being on death row, it didn't change her. It didn't scare her. She wasn't scared. Now you'll see her cry when she got the sentence because she cried for herself, never the victim. Some of the things she said about that victim after the fact are horrible. Her mouth should have been sewed shut. I'm not kidding. So there's no interviews or advocacy or any defense or nothing like that from her mother's family or her mother or anything like that. Basically, after court, they pretty much all disappeared from the light. That's why I say, I don't think her mother said that only for show in court. I believe her grandmother is no longer alive, from my understanding and my research. Doing my research, I don't know if her mother is still alive or not. I've saw two different things, and sometimes out there are different things. But it doesn't matter. She's non-existent from her life. Psychologists testified on her upbringing that contributed. They said, again, I'd like to talk to some of these doctors. They said contributed to her personality disorders. That may be true. It impaired her empathy. That was probably true. And created emotional voids. Well, I'm sure she felt voids in her life. I'm sure she did. But it's still no excuse, people. Have you ever felt lonely? Have you ever felt ditzed? Have you ever felt anything like that? What'd you do? Okay, you keep moving. You try to do better. You try to change. You don't do what she did and continue those acts. Her abuse did not excuse the satanic torture she chose to commit. And that's what the doctor said as well. They did say that. They said it does not excuse. They said it's on paper that her abuse did not excuse what she did. And chose, they said, and chose to commit. And I fully agree. We've been through things, but that don't make us monsters. And some of you want to know, where was the state at? Well, I'm fixing to tell you. Yes, there was state intervention, if you want to call it that. But it was limited. And it was a little too late. It was a little too late. CPS in West Virginia got involved multiple times. It's in the psychologist reports. It's in videos. And it's in the records. Child welfare got involved. Home instability documented by the agencies. Authorities were aware of neglect and exposure to abuse for Krista, but is the key word. They said, but she was never meaningfully removed from her home. She was never monitored from long-term times or care. And she was never giving structured or protective services. So did the system fail her? Yes. Hell yes, like they're still doing here decades later. They should have learned too, in my opinion. They haven't learned a damn thing in 30 years, not in the state of Tennessee, in my opinion. So yes, CPS was aware of issues about Krista and everything that happened to her and everything that was going on in her home and with her family. But she was bounced between her mother and her grandmother, and that's where her grandmother come to the rescue every time. She fell through those cracks. Hell, if you think about it, they were failing the mother too, honestly. She received also, it was almost no treatment or anything for supervision. One evaluation later said, and the doctor testified, the systems did fail her. They failed to intervene with the severity required that should have been done. She had maternal neglect and instability due to substance abuse from her mom. And it noted she was in unsafe environments and there was emotional abandonment. At least one investigation was logged in West Virginia during her early school, when she was in school, and nothing was done. Like many other cases, intervention ended with no meaningful placement. She didn't get psychiatric services for a long time, and they were very sporadic. No corrective supervision. No formal records show substantial follow-up in Tennessee. By the time she reached Job Corps, she was past the age where typical, where CPS could really do anything. I mean, she was pretty much considered an adult by the time she went to Job Corps. She was past that age of typical protective removal or anything like that. Hell, they didn't need to remove her at that time. But understand this. CPS involvement did not create her crimes. Let me say that again. CPS involvement, or non-existent of their involvement, I should say probably, did not create her crimes. But it failed to stop her escalations and her behaviors. Krista Pike made her choices. Krista Pike committed these crimes. No one made her. No one. Not her acquaintances, not CPS, not her mother, not her grandmother, not these people who abused her. Yes, was she a kid who needed a lot of intensive supervision? Yes. Did she need mental health services? Yes. She got neither, but it's no excuse. Don't get it twisted. I don't want y'all to feel sorry for her, because she is the devil's child. She had an angel face, though. People with worse childhood, y'all, don't torture. Do not torture other humans. Her choices were, and still are, deliberate, sadistic, and very personal when she does something. So the CPS failure is just a layer. It's not an excuse. There's no excuse for her actions. Now, her mother had a documented history of drug abuse, as we know, and it was reported she was very unstable. She had poor parenting. Her mother was the first one to admit that on the stand. But it's in paper. It's there. It's everywhere. In this, when she did get the psychological, with the doctors and things like that. But sources, say she's been. Her mom had drug possession and stuff like that, but nothing ever really took Krista. But they said in reports also she had the indicators of neglect and instability and all that. But She was never charged with child abuse directly, not tied to her, and she was never charged with anything with this case. Or again, this was her decision, Krista's decision. But her mother was never prosecuted for the environment that she grew up in. She was never prosecuted for neglect. She was never prosecuted for any of that. So the reason she was never charged with the neglect, I'm sure you want to know. Well, the reasons given, I can tell you that. Many of the reports said it just didn't result in action. CPS never got together any long-term abuse plans. They just kind of swept it under the rug as well and let her go to her grandmother's. And that was one of the problems. That's where tough love needs to come in, y'all, because this was one of the problems. The grandmother always stepped in, shielding this lady and the state from any liability, and she took on her granddaughter that she loved and tried to do the best she could with, and knowing she couldn't, and she still wasn't safe there. Another reason they gave is because Krista ran away. She always ran away. She would bounce from household to household. And I'm sure the grandmother and mother, I'm sure they didn't, call it in and all those things. But the state essentially considered her case handled. That's what they considered it, handled. Even though it really wasn't. But could anyone ever really stop her, Krista Pike? Well, they didn't stop her when she got on death row. I don't think no one ever could have really handled her or stopped her from anything. Right, Raymond? You're playing your drums. I don't know. Could that have made a difference? Could it have saved Colleen? I don't know. We will never know the answers because nobody ever tried. There's documented evidence that Krista Pike harmed animals, though. So we're going to get there because I had to know that. Did she harm animals before killing Colleen or in her childhood? You want to guess? Anybody? Anybody want to put it in what they think? Because if you guessed yes, you would be absolutely right. This is one of the most chilling early warning signs noted in her psychological evaluation. Multiple sources, including investigative reports, forensic interviews, Job Corps, people who were around her or who knew her, said she had acts of violence towards animals. She had a fascination with hurting living things. She enjoyed causing suffering. People around her said she liked to torment small animals. There was another witness that said she was especially cruel to cats. These behaviors were known before the murder of Colleen, but nobody intervened. Kind of like kicking the cat, just saying. I'm telling you right now, people, if you see those signs of anyone, you better sit up and take notice. If someone harms animals, that's a huge red flag. You don't have to like animals. You don't have to like them. You don't have to want them crawling on you. You don't have to go near them. And some people in life are even scared of them. They've been bit and all kinds of things. But when this happens, when you see children or anyone harming animals, that's a red flag. It always has been. It's documented. Everything. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research, and not in just this case. Let me tell you something. Teach your kids. You don't have to like them. And I understand things happen. And if they do, if they're ever bit or something, you need to teach them, how to not be. You need to take that time and try to teach them not to be scared of them. That don't mean it's going to change their feelings. But you don't have to like animals. And you can teach them that. You don't have to have them. You don't have to go near them. But you teach them. Never, ever, ever hurt them. And I understand when kids are little, they might kick, they might do things. And they're not going to turn out like Krista. However, it's your job to say, no, honey, you don't do that. This is the way you pet an animal. This is what you do, or teach them. But it's not normal to hurt animals. And it's not normal to hurt animals and enjoy it. Animal cruelty is one of the FBI's strongest predictors of later violent and sadistic behavior, especially in serial killers, torturers, thrill killers, juvenile aggression cases. And let me tell you something. Krista checked that box. She checked all of those boxes. She began associating with animals in a sadistic symbolism. She had dark themes, imagery of death. Hurting animals gave her control. And that escalated into controlling and inflicting pain on human lives. Obsessing over, she had to have the dominance. And then she got obsessive and jealous. She had a bad thing with jealousy. Jealousy was the motive, the reason why she did what she did to Colleen. What she did to Colleen got her in death row, got her execution date. Look, Krista did not suddenly become violent, and she didn't suddenly just snap over jealousy. She had documentation for years, child neglect, emotional instability, bullying on her part, animal cruelty, fantasy attachment to dark things, torture of human beings is where she got. That's the classic violence pathway, y'all. Who Krista Pike is on death row now? Who is she, and who has she been on death row? Let's talk about that a second. First, and above all, she's not, nor has she ever been remorseful for anything she did. She's not a quiet person, and she's not reformed. She could never be reformed. Prayer Garden, love you. Thank you for being here. Welcome, welcome. Honey, love you so much. Hope everything's going well. Summer's Army. Yes, she is the devil. If she ever got free, even if she escaped, like she tried to escape before, I definitely 100%, in my opinion, say she would do this again and again and again. She might, instead of being known for infamously the woman who's going to be executed in over 200 years in Tennessee, she might have very well, if she had been loose or escaped, they said she was reformed, she might have very well been the most youngest woman serial killer that's killed the most people in the whole wide world. That's how dangerous she is. They say today, because she's locked up, many inmates there, because see, a lot of inmates, they mellow out when they go to jail. Okay, they get a grip. They get their grip, honey. They chill. They grow up. They grow out of it. And you know good and damn well, most all inmates find religion. Oh my God, they find religion. They find their Jesus, not Krista. Thank you, Summer's Army. Whoop, 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 whoop. I'm having to use my laughy button. I don't know what my grandkids did with the bell, honey. Or either that or the dogs knocked it down. I just hadn't cleaned this room this morning. I don't know. Who knows? Thank you for your support, sweetheart. Love you. Yeah, y'all know, like Don Wells. Anybody who's ever been in prison, they find their Jesus. They find their religion. Thank you, honey. Thank you, Summer's Army. Not her. She stayed impulsive, she stayed manipulative, and she stayed violent. Prison staff and psychologists documented her as emotionally stunted, narcissistic, and they said she was thrill-driven. Remember what we talked about earlier? Thrill-driven, even in confinement. The thrill of her evil ways always drives her. And she attempted murder in prison in 2001. She tried to strangle a fellow inmate with a shoestring. That inmate's name is Patricia Jones. And Patricia Jones almost died from that. This is confirmed. And she got 25 years attacked onto her death sentence for that crime in prison. Impulsive violence, inability to function socially. That's why they keep her locked up 23 out of 24 hours a day. She's a bad prisoner. They say she's bullied weaker inmates. She flexed her crime as a notoriety, y'all. She's still bragging about the crime she did to Colleen there, right? She's tried to manipulate others. She's not this weak little girl that grew up in prison, broken prisoner. None of that. They say she fears nothing. From that start, a lot from the start of it, a lot of people called her that little girl and that little young girl in prison. I guess half the world was divided on it. There's no dividing this. She had relationships with men outside the prison, y'all, which most prisoners do, men and women. But Krista gained attention from obsessive fans. And yes, everybody has fans. Hell, Scott Peterson had fans when he before he even got the door locked behind him. Absolutely, Leslie, pure evil. But she had fans, and she had relations with men who were against the death penalty. These men also she had relations with. She had a lot of them, a lot. But look at her. She was beautiful. Not so much anymore, but I think she was a beautiful young girl. But you had these lonely, unstable men. One man actually arranged a relationship with her, but it fell apart. She left behind a sting of letters and these writings. God, she has tons showing her arrogance, her self-pity, not for the victim, her self-pity, and zero empathy for Colleen. She loves to talk about it. She loves to brag about it to this day. She always complained she was the true victim. She hooked up with all kinds of losers. Even in the outside world, there was all kinds of losers and sickos, in my opinion, that had relationships with her. Unlike another female or any female death row cases, this girl didn't have anybody advocating for her, any real movement for her, no innocent programs and stuff like that, no public sympathy for her. And she didn't deserve it. She didn't deserve it. Even the death penalty, man. The people there, they were uncomfortable. Even people that was for death, people that was for the death penalty was so uncomfortable defending her because of the torture and the sadism stuff that she did on Colleen, and torture and all the stuff she imposed. So people that was even for the death sentence, they didn't try to, they just wanted to distance themselves. Thank you, let them. Whoop, 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 whoop. Let me put this up. Time to put this up, honey. Let's see. I don't know where my little thing went. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love all of y'all. I love all of y'all. I'm so glad you're here listening. I'm so happy. Her profile in prison, the assessment she had done, they say she was severely antisocial. She was a narcissistic. She was thrill-seeking. She was unable to process remorse. Well, that's a fact. She didn't have no damn remorse. I don't know about if she was able to process it. She didn't have none. You can't process something you don't have. They say she was emotionally underdeveloped. One evaluator wrote, she appears frozen at times at an adolescent level. Were her empathies concerned? I could agree with that. Her mother and her family didn't really fight publicly for her. You know, she don't really have no supporters but these losers trying to get in her pants or try to figure a way. Her family just kind of retreated from view, if you will, after the court hearings. And she became What Krista became? Krista Pike became a symbol in Tennessee for a rare female execution. News people, journalists, newspaper, all over the world, they said she's the most hated woman in Tennessee prisons. She's self-centered. She's manipulative. She enjoyed her notoriety, or should I say infamous notoriety. She never accepted responsibility, and there was no meaningful remorse ever towards Colleen's family or Colleen's mom. Her family once said she never cared what she did, and she still doesn't. And I have to agree with her 1,010%. Let me tell you why Krista Pike stands out. And please hear me. She only stands out because of what she did and how she did it. Being so disgusting with her rage and her torment and her evilness, that's what will leave her legacy of becoming the youngest woman on death row, being the only female to be put to death if it carries through in over 200 years. What kind of legacy is that? Huh? What kind of legacy is that? Thank you, Summers Army. Let's see. Back to work. Oh, thank you. You have a wonderful day, sweetheart. Thank you so much. I love you, and thank you for stopping by. Please come back again. We're going to be going over this for a while. There is so much. I'm going to put it all out there. Everything I can. In my words, in their words, and actual legal documents, and all the things. This don't deserve to be buried. And it don't deserve to die with her. Most women on death row, they have complex trauma and they express remorse. And, you know, they do, but not her. She never softened. She got tougher. She didn't grow emotionally. She didn't, stop the violence. She learned more. She had a lot of times on her hand. And she learned. And she tried over and over. I mean, and the prison life validated what psychologists suspected, that she wasn't just this troubled teen. She was someone who loved power. And she loved the thrill of harming others. That's what they said. That's what is documented. And that is the truth. In 1996, she was sentenced to death. Krista Pike arrived on Tennessee's death row. She was very young, a young woman, the youngest woman in the USA of that time, at that time. That's another reason she'll be remembered, or she's talked about, because in the whole United States at that time, this was the youngest woman ever to be put on death row. They said from her very first months there, the officers noticed she had nothing but entitlement, immaturity. She was a manipulator, and she had zero remorse. She poured her energy into all these letters and attention. She loved her infamity. Later, in the 1900s, she learned the system fast. She was smart. Look, I ain't gonna lie. I said she was smart, and she's smart. She learned the system fast, and inmates, they described her as someone who thought she was, the special person for being a killer. She was proud of what she did. She bragged about it. She still brags about it to this day. She bragged about the murder that she carried on to Colleen like a queen bee attitude, despite being disliked. And I'm not talking about Honey. I'm not talking about the creator. So don't get it fucked up. I'm talking about this queen bee attitude she had. If y'all don't know what that is, then you need to research it. I don't have time to explain it. I'm not talking about any creators. Just to be crystal clear. Guards found this inmate, Patricia Jones, where Krista had used a shoestring around her neck while she was in prison at that time, and they found her and she was turning blue. This incident destroyed any claim that she had to being rehabilitated, safe, where she could go out and mingle with others, or any claim that she was just this misunderstood little girl. She received an additional 25 years, proving her danger isn't a one-time thing. It was part of her personality. It was part of her being. In 2002 to 2010, the real manipulator, they said, started to come out. That real manipulator, her real mask fell off all the way down. Her drawers too. If she was even wearing any. She was flirting with the male pen pals, the male guards. She was demanding emotional attention. She was altering between self-pity and being secure. One guard described her as a bored little child in a grown body that loves chaos. She wrote letters claiming, "I'm not the monster they say I am," while refusing to acknowledge what she had done and the horror of her actions. In 2010, she had mood swings. Hell, I'd have done had mood swings being locked up like a caged animal. The day I walked in them doors and that cell door slammed. Not her. But now it's took her until 2010 sometime to have a mood swing. Remember, they said she was mental and crazy and all that. Okay, guess it could happen. And it does at different times. I can understand that. But it took her until 2010. She started having mood swings. She started getting paranoid. She started raging. She blamed her mother at that time. She blamed Job Corps. She blamed Colleen. She blamed the court. She blamed society. She blamed everybody but herself for the situation that herself was in. She's never taken any responsibility. She's never taken any accountability. Unlike other death row inmates, she really don't have any documentaries out there either, if you think about it. Her crime was so sadistic, nobody wants any part of her. Nobody. She had a short-lived, bizarre romantic connection with this man outside I was telling y'all about earlier. And very few supporters those supporters that were very few also walked away. Nobody wants part of this animal. Listen, animals are better than her. I don't even like calling her an animal. She is a freaking monster. She had no emotional attachments. And those close enough to really observe her or know her, whether it be the guards, the doctors, anybody, said she never matured. She stayed 18 emotionally. She never had any remorse. They said she was unpredictable, egotistical. She lacked empathy, and she craved attention. Even other killers avoided her, and this is where it gets interesting. Like I told you before, the other killers, Janice, you have a good day, honey. The other killers avoided her. Okay? And that's bad. That's very, very bad. Right? Now, that's pretty damn bad when other killers avoid you on death row, already in prison, for whatever reason. That should tell you everything about Krista Pike you need to know. Who she is, how she is. Okay, honey, thank you. I appreciate you coming in, and I'll be back on this. I'll be back on. Thank you so much. I love you. Now, in these last years, everyone says in reports, and it's wrote down, she's just in her last years here, in the last few years there, she's just a bitter, restless person. She's angry. She wasn't treated like a celebrity. Remember, those people outside supporting her don't even support her. She's angry about that. And she's still blaming others. She never became remorseful or reflective or anything. Several death row officials told journalists she never changed. And they said that was the disturbing part. That's in the news. That's some of their quotes and some of their statements. There were moments where she cried about being executed, and she felt sorry for herself. There were those times. But not once has she publicly or even privately expressed ownership of what she did to Colleen. In fact, she said that's what she gets for finishing off the bitch, finally. And think about it. She took that meat cutter and that box cutter, and y'all can imagine from ear to ear, whatever, all over her body. And poor Colleen was still trying to talk. She said, I couldn't understand the bitch. She's lucky I mean, really? Yeah. Prayer Garden says, when I try to blame everyone else runs away. Yeah, it just leaves nobody but yourself to blame. Absolutely. Prayer Garden, you remember this case, don't you? A lot of people has forgot about it. It's horrible. It's disgusting. The guards describe her execution attitude in reports as, and now that she's got her date and everything, that she's very agitated and emotionally unstable. Well, damn, keep her locked up for reals. Take them clothes and take everything away from her if you have to. Yeah. I remember hearing about it, but I wasn't on YouTube then. And of course, I just, you hear it on the news and you go on about your business. But it's going to get out there now that all this is going on and she's been given a date. But there were reports, on all of this, that she's very agitated now and she's angry and she's losing control. They say, well, hell, wouldn't you lose control too? She's got less months. She could have had a baby. She could have been having a family. You've heard about it, Leslie? Or you've never heard about it? You never heard about it. Well, you're going to be hearing a lot about it here. And that's why I'm not going to just try to give you the little tiny pieces. I'm going to try to go through everything, honey, because there is so much. Her life, her co-conspirators' lives, Colleen, we talked about that. Everything, because I think something in there might be important to help others. I don't know. I could be wrong. My channel might just torment others. I don't know. That's why I said use your discretion, honey. But I'm going to get down to the nitty gritty with it. That's what I'm going to do. Because it wasn't a story of wanting attention. She wanted that. But this is torture, and warning. I'm telling you, I'm speaking on Krista Pike. And to me, that evil doesn't always look like a monster, as you can see on this screen and in all of her photos, everything. Sometimes it's a young girl with a smile, a past, and choices that grew darker over time. But the name that matters here most is Colleen Slimmer, right? She had dreams. She had dreams of a family, of better in her life. She had laughter, plans, and her life was taken away from her. And no one should ever have to endure what she endured. She suffered, no doubt. She absolutely suffered. It was torture. Let's live Colleen and her name and her memory and her voice, because Krista Pike took her life. She does not get to take the last word from Colleen, right? Let's watch this other video here. This will explain a lot. Again, fair use disclaimer, got it up here, got it down here. Y'all know the drill. Any mods, just drop their link. I'm going to put the link up there. Link is going to be in the description. We're going to watch this just a minute.
March 13th, 1995. 4 teenage students took a walk into the desolate woods near the campus of the University of Tennessee. 3 of them are said to have belonged to a satanic cult, and the 4th, she was a teen from Florida who only tagged along for free weed. But what happened to her in the woods that night has sparked a fascination that has spanned over 20 years. What is up, Ewu crew? Today, we are going to cover a horrific crime spurred by jealousy. One that would leave a young girl mutilated, with a pentagram carved into her torso, and a missing piece of her skull taken from her body. There is no doubt that evil showed its face in the Tennessee woods that night in 1995. But did the devil make them do it? Let's get into it. Krista Gale Pike was born March 10th, 1976 in West Virginia. She was raised by her devout Christian grandmother, and her playground was the slaughterhouse where her grandfather worked. As a child, Krista was allegedly abused by her grandmother's friend, Ernest, and sadly, it is speculated that if this abuse occurred, it may have started when she was still in diapers. At the age of 12, her grandmother died, and following, it is believed that Krista attempted to take her own life for the first time.
Yep, and we see this
Stricken with grief, it was later reported that
here.
Krista began to self-mutilate in different ways in an attempt to cope. Matters only worsened for her when she had to move in with her mother, Carissa. who at the time was a licensed registered nurse and was allegedly an alcoholic. They did not have a great relationship, to say the least. Krista's mother ended up taking her troubled young daughter to see a shrink. However, most of the shrinks that Krista visited didn't provide enough aid when it came to her mental health. Things were only worsened by the revolving men in her mom's life. In an interview, Krista recalled one of her mom's boyfriends saying, "He made this leather strap with a wooden handle on it specifically to beat the hell out of me with. And he made this thing and hung it up on my bedroom wall like it was decoration." All of these factors undoubtedly were influential on Krista's psyche, which may have led to her demonic shift in behavior. Krista, when 18 years old, was enrolled in the Jobs Corps program at the Knoxville campus of the University of Tennessee. In the 90s, Job Corps was described as providing vocational training for disadvantaged youth, giving them a chance for a promising career. Krista was there to study nursing, following in her mother's footsteps. It was here that Krista would meet.
See, I didn't know her mother was into nursing, but oh my God, can you imagine? Oh my God. And can you imagine if Krista would have been a nurse? She would have, oh my God. I wouldn't want her to be my nurse, but here's the thing. I think she chose that, in my opinion, because she loved all of that. And she would have loved all the things. But my God, no telling. She might have been the death nurse of the century. I can't even fathom all this. Oh, my Lord. Just saying.
Meet Colleen Slemmer, who was enrolled in the same program. To say that they were friends would be inaccurate. Krista suspected Colleen was attempting to seduce her 17-year-old boyfriend. The boyfriend, Tadaryl Shipp, was caught in the middle of this love triangle. At one point, Krista had traveled back home for a holiday, while Tadaryl stayed behind in Knoxville. It was only because of Krista's absence that he turned his attention to Colleen. He later admitted that he and Colleen did hook up during that break. However, he never confirmed the fling to Krista, leading her to act upon only her suspicions. In an interview, Tadaryl can be heard saying about Colleen, "I didn't even know she existed. She approached me." Friends of Colleen Slemmer denied that she was attempting to snatch away Tadaryl from Krista. But with obvious tension between the two young women, Krista attempted to extend an olive branch to Colleen by offering her some of the cannabis she had stashed away in the woods. But that was not Krista's true intention. The bag of weed she claimed was hidden was only the hook to reel Colleen to her grim fate. The night before, Krista admitted to her friend, Kim Iloilo, that she was planning on killing Colleen, adding, "She just felt mean that day." Enthralled by the occult, it wasn't just Krista that voiced her sinister interests. Tadaryl, a few days prior to the incident, would tell another student that he had to make a human sacrifice because the celestial bodies were in alignment. At approximately 8 p.m. on Thursday, January 12th, the 4 students signed out of their dorms: Krista Pike, Tadaryl Shipp, Colleen Slemmer, and another friend named Shadola Peterson. Colleen, with the hopes of getting high with the group, didn't appear to have a problem walking into the woods. They led Colleen to an isolated area in Tyson Park near the University of Tennessee campus. It was here where the grisly acts would unfold on that chilly Tennessee night. The tension grew thick between the group when Krista confronted Colleen, accusing her of wanting to steal her boyfriend away. As Colleen again denied the accusation, she quickly realized that they weren't in the woods to smoke pot as she had eagerly anticipated. Krista and Tadero were armed with a small meat cleaver and box cutter, while Shadola stayed on the perimeter as a lookout. They were ready for a fight. Suddenly, Krista grabbed Colleen's head and slammed her face into her knee. She then threw Colleen into the ground and with an unrelenting fury, kicked and punched her mercilessly. Colleen cried out, "Why are you doing this to me?" as the forceful blows continued raining down on her. Laying in the mud and sobbing, Colleen mustered the strength to stand and attempt to escape. She tried to run away several times, but to no avail. The first time resulted in Krista slicing a long cut across her back. Her attempts were also thwarted by Tadero, who intercepted Colleen and pinned her to the ground. It was here that Krista unsheathed the box cutter blade and sliced Colleen once again, this time across her stomach. Colleen begged Krista for her life, telling her that if she would let her go, that she would, quote, walk back to Florida without stopping at Job Corps to pick up her stuff.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? She was being tortured, and this poor little girl told her, just let her go. I will walk back to Florida. She was in Tennessee, and she did everything she could to save her life. And Krista Pike just kept on and tortured and made her suffer. I can't even fathom this. You tell me her past had something to do with this? I'll tell you, FTOF. I don't believe it. This girl is evil.
Krista told Colleen to shut up, saying, "It's harder to hurt someone when they are talking to you." She later admitted that the more Colleen tried to talk, the more she kicked her in the face. The unrelenting and brutal torture paused momentarily when Krista thought she heard a noise in the nearby woods. Colleen was left lying on the cold, damp ground while Krista briefly investigated the sound. It was shortly thereafter that Krista returned and proceeded to lacerate the helpless girl's throat, cutting it several times with the box cutter. Amazingly, Colleen once again found the strength to sit up and plead for her life, and even attempt another escape. But as soon as she started to flee, Krista threw a rock, striking her squarely in the back of the head. Tadero then joined in and hit her with rocks as well. Krista explained how, after regaining control, she remembered the specific sounds of Colleen's labored breathing. A medical examiner later described how Colleen was drowning in her own blood. After about 30 minutes, Tadero took the box cutter and carved a pentagram into Colleen's chest as their final mark. The medical examiner later testified, saying, "The area around each wound was red in appearance, indicating that the heart had still been beating when the wound was inflicted." He added, "None of the aforementioned wounds would have rendered the victim unconscious." With every slash across her skin, Colleen surely felt the agony of all the horrors that were being done to her. She suffered through nearly an hour before Krista picked up a large chunk of broken asphalt and repeatedly struck Colleen in the head. As Colleen's blood collected on the cold forest floor, her pain and agony finally came to a chilling end. While Shadola kept watch, Tadero and Krista dragged Colleen's body to a nearby area where there was a cluster of trees, and she was placed on top of a pile of dirt and debris. But before leaving the site, Krista took a piece of Colleen's fragmented skull and placed it in the pocket of her jacket as a trophy of what.
That in itself is very disturbing. And she carried that with her. She carried it back to the school, to Job Corps, and she showed everybody and said that was her proof. And she bragged about it. And she run her mouth. That's how she got caught. That's how they all got caught. But she bragged about it, and that she never denied it when she was arrested. And Colleen's poor mother couldn't even have every piece to her daughter and give her that grace, because a piece of her skull has been in evidence for decades. Now, think about that.
What she had just done. Allegedly, Satanists believed that the body must be whole for the soul to be released, and by taking part of Colleen, her soul would be kept captive. Then they removed 2 of her ID cards and a pair of black gloves that Colleen had been wearing. Taddaryl and Krista rubbed the mud from the bottom of their shoes over the bloodstains that covered their pants in an attempt to hide any evidence. After leaving the isolated part of the University of Tennessee campus, they walked to a nearby Texaco gas station to dispose of the ID cards and gloves. From there, they returned to their dorm rooms around 10 p.m., as if nothing happened. 4 people signed out that night, but only 3 signed back in. Once back at the dorms, Krista revisited her friend, Kim Iloilo. This time, Krista wasn't feeling mean, as Kim had described before. Instead, she was dancing around in circles, smiling and singing. Like an eager child wanting to show off, Krista bragged to Kim of the atrocities she had just committed earlier in the night. She even showed Kim the piece of Colleen's skull that she had taken with her. Colleen's butchered remains were discovered the next morning by a university employee. Initially, thinking he stumbled upon an animal carcass, the man went in closer for further inspection. In horror, he realized he was looking at a human body when he noticed the naked torso. At 8 a.m. on Friday the 13th, Knoxville police arrived along with the university campus police. One of the first responding officers described Colleen's head, saying, "I thought I was looking into her face, but everything was so badly mangled I couldn't be sure." Krista was careless in more ways than one following the murder. She returned to the scene of the crime the next day, only to be denied entry to the part of the woods she intended to go. Later on, she left behind her jacket, the same one with a piece of Colleen's skull, in an administrator's office on campus. The jacket was turned over to the police, where they discovered the piece of skull. All 3 students, Krista Pike, Taddaryl Shipp, and Shadola Peterson, were promptly arrested within the next 36 hours. Krista was the first to be questioned. The talkative teen waived her rights to remain silent and admitted she was at fault for Colleen's death. Her entire confession, once typed out, was 40 pages in length.
Good to see you, honey.
As if that wasn't enough proof, police found Colleen Slemmer's blood soaked into the jeans Krista had worn that night. A cooperative Krista took police back to the Texaco station, where they found Colleen's ID cards, and also accompanied them back to the woods to describe the events in further detail. In Taddaryl's dorm room, police ended up finding a satanic Bible. The trial took place on March 22nd, 1996. Krista was prosecuted by Bill Crabtree, an assistant Knoxville County District Attorney. In his opening statement to jurors, he began explaining that the evidence within this case is of an act so vile, so heinous, so atrocious, so despicable, as bad or worse as anything you've ever seen in a movie, read in a novel, or dreamed in your worst.
Well, yeah, it was. It was the most heinous crime ever. And The judge even got onto her. And again, it tells you something when killers in death row or in prison with her, even earlier on until now, do not even want to have anything to do with her. Everyone is in her life backed away from her. She was the evil spawn. Brooks, I'm so glad to see you. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I just think it's important to get this out. A lot of people might have forgot about it until it come out that she got her execution date. But I'm not going to just go into little things. I'm going to go into the entire freaking thing that I can find or do. I don't know if it'll be good or bad or whatever, but I think it needs to be told. And my God, there's so much. She's a monster. Oh, and shall I say, stay tuned. Y'all can drag me if you want. I'm even thinking about writing this girl. I'll say that.
Nightmare. During the trial, Krista cried continuously in front of the courtroom. The tears didn't have an effect on the jurors, as it only took a few short hours for them to deliberate and convict her on both charges. The jurors described the young girl as having an angel's face, but a devil's heart. Krista Pike was found guilty of first-degree murder and given the death penalty on March 22, 1996. Daryl Shipp was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. And Shadola Peterson received probation since she agreed to become an informant against the other two. She pled guilty to being an accessory after the fact. At only 20 years old, Krista became the youngest woman to be sentenced to death in the United States. Only a few days after finding out that she would be executed, she sent an unsettling note to Daryl Shipp, writing, "Please write me. I miss you so much. You see what I get for trying to be nice to the I went ahead and bashed her brains out so she'd die quickly instead of letting her bleed to death and suffer more. And they fry me. Ain't that some Please write me and tell me what you're feeling. Also, tell your lawyer if he wants me to testify for you, I will. Love you for the rest of my life." Krista signed off on the letter as Lil Devil. As the French
I want to say, if that ain't some shit right there, that's what I'm talking about with y'all. Well, first of all, another prisoner is never supposed to write another prisoner. So yes, they did intercept that letter, but it wasn't because of what she wrote in it. She still tried. She tried everything she could to get to him, even when they were both locked up. Prayer Garden says some real on-cult members have big mouths and they take things. Absolutely. And same with the serial killers. You know, they always want a trophy. Always. And I believe if she was left out or not found as soon as she was, I think it was 3 days, 2 or 3 days when she was caught, got herself caught and everybody else, they come into the school and got them. But I believe if she wasn't caught early on, she would have been out doing the unthinkable to anybody and everybody she came across. She already had that in her blood. It was in her soul, I think, when she was born. And now, after Colleen, she enjoyed it and she had a taste of it. You know, just like dogs do. If they get a hold of a cat, then they can't never really be around cats because they're going to do it again. She would have did it again and again and again. Thank God they stopped her. Although she tried to do it in prison again with a shoestring to somebody else. She hasn't changed. She doesn't have any remorse. None of that. None of it.
Frenzied spectacle surrounding the satanic killing died down, Krista Pike would capture the media's attention once more. On August 24th, 2001, after 5 years into her sentence, Krista attempted to kill again. She was almost successful in strangling Patricia Jones, a fellow inmate, to death. She claimed she didn't intend to kill Jones, but in a phone call that she made to her mother, she can be heard saying, "I bet you if she gets near me, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna succeed this damn time." See, now I know the difference between premeditated murder and what happened with Colleen. 'Cause see, I premeditated the hell out of this. Sure did. If I'd have had 30 more seconds, we'd have a little chalk line out there in our rec pen, and that bitch would be gone somewhere. Again, a trial took place, and another guilty conviction for attempted first-degree murder was tacked onto Krista's already inescapable death sentence. At this point, her defense team extended an appeal to the federal court system. They requested that her fate be life in prison and not execution. They argued that she had mental illness, and that capital punishment as administered in Tennessee is unconstitutional. But it was the last-ditch effort Krista had to beg for her life to be spared. The legal team representing Krista's fight centered their defense on testimony attesting to the trauma she suffered at an early age. Dr. Jonathan Henry Pincus, an expert in neurology, testified to the appeals court that Pike's brain had underdeveloped frontal lobes. It is in this part of the brain where a person's sense of right and wrong is managed. Pincus said this was the result of Pike's mother abusing alcohol while she was still in the womb. He argued that this, combined with a turbulent adolescence, is what's to blame for Pike's actions. The appeals court upheld the previous ruling and sent Krista Pike back to death row. And Krista Pike remains the only woman in Tennessee awaiting execution. Although she has exhausted all of her appeals, she affirms that she should not be put to death. Now, 25 years later, Krista Pike remains locked away in her small concrete cell, contemplating all the events that have transpired in her life. Regret, remorse, acceptance. Krista Gale Pike will likely one day eat her last meal, walk her last steps with shackled feet down the cell block, and take her final seat in the electric chair. Colleen Slemmer's family will then receive peace, knowing justice for their daughter's heinous death will be finally and fatally served. Although the devil himself may not have been responsible for Krista Pike's actions that January night so long ago, it was the demons of her own torturous past that may have led her to forego logic, reason, and all sense of human decency.
I'll say, I think she's just pure evil, absolutely pure evil. And to think all of this, well, the crime itself was because of jealousy. Again, I can't help myself. We see it every day on here. Jealousy is, nobody should have jealousy. You should be who you are, in touch with who you are, love yourself. Don't be jealous of others. Jealousy is one of the deadliest killers we know in this world. It doesn't pull the trigger itself, but it sure poisons these people, poisons their minds, makes them crazy. That makes them crazy. Okay? But I just wanted to talk about Krista, who she is, who she was, and I don't mean was as in dead. She ain't dead yet. I have a feeling when that time comes, in about 9 months, if it's carried through and it's not stopped for any reason, she's going to have some interesting last words. Because she wants to be famous. Hey, Deanna. Hello, honey. She loves the attention, and she's going to go out with a bang, literally. So we talked about what jealousy can do. And when it enters the worst heart, that's oil and vinegar. It's dangerous. Krista didn't kill because she was neglected, in my opinion, or lonely or wounded, this wounded little girl. She killed because jealousy became her own identity. It started out small. Maybe a look. Maybe just a rumor. Oh, them rumors. She needed to control somebody else. She didn't want to see anybody else happy. Instead of taking care of her own house and her own insecurities, she fed into this jealousy. And this jealousy, it grew teeth. I'm not going to say it got into her soul. This girl did not have a soul. I think she was born soulless. Maybe I need to research that. Jealousy will make a person destroy what they cannot have. I don't think her boyfriend, allegedly her boyfriend, whatever, he didn't give a damn about her anyway. He wasn't taking anything serious. He said at one time he didn't even notice her. She just kept throwing herself on him. But jealousy can turn insecurity into violence. And it'll make someone think, they own somebody. But eliminating them will solve the problem. And it won't. We're going to continue to go over this. There is so much out there. So many videos. So many legal documents. I've put some of them are over 800 and something pages. Some of them are over 200. There is so much to this. And I've put some of them in the members. I mean, y'all can read it on your own leisure. Didn't want it to get, lost in the shuffle. Y'all know me. I'm not a very organized person. I'm just me, honey. I'm just me. But we're going to get to it. I'm going to play this song out because I love this new song. I can't help myself. Y'all probably get sick of it. But I thank you for being here. Go sub up to Brooks. Go sub up to at Crime Line and Lies. Go sub up to Prayer Garden. Go sub up to everybody that is doing Summer Wells' case. I hear it is heating up, and I got my eyes and ears on it. And this violence needs to stop. All this bullshit needs to stop. I love y'all. I got to take my dog somewhere, and I will be out and about. But I will be back on later today, God willing. God willing, I don't get sick again like I did yesterday. But let's play this out. I love y'all. Thank you to all my mods. Thank you to creators coming in. Thank you to subs. Thank you for people in the bushes. Thank you, everybody, for all your support to this channel, to me, for any donations, everything. I appreciate you, and I love you all. Let's get it.
She was born and bred in Nashville, but she walks the beaches down in Florida sand. A mother and wife, a daughter, a sister, trying hard to do the best she can. She found her voice with a heavy heart, looking for purpose with trembling hands. Giving this heart a new start, moving ahead, speaking for ones who came. And she says, I am who I am, I'll stand my ground. Even when the nights get long and rough, you'll hear my sound. She'll be speaking for the ones unheard, 'cause she's got a caring heart that won't be turned. Her mama fought cancer while she was searching, stories that needed a gentle voice. We saw summer's name and felt the heart ache and tried to bring light where there was no choice. And when she heard us, Sebastian, her sadness rose. She prays for truth through the noise. She'll follow wherever the story goes, seeking their dignity, a child's joy.